your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. To give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. Then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. Let's waste no time. Ooh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Local prison concerns. Back in top headlines. The Mediator has a report published October 28th out of Youngstown. Now, this is after an inmate at the NEOCC on Hubbard Road, that's a correctional institution on Hubbard Road, he stabbed his cellmate 5 times in the back with a knife, once behind his ear, once in the front torso, and once in the finger. Folks, this is almost word for word in the report. Although the injuries were not life-threatening, the report made it in because it highlights a continued strain in the justice system to not only manage prisons, but to also keep inmates and guards and visitors out of harm's way in the day-to-day life in any justice institution. That's why story number 1. Story number 2, grants. The Vindicator has a staff report published October 25th explaining how the Community Foundation of the Mahoning Valley has awarded $640,112 through its third quarter grant cycle, and according to the report will fund 53 nonprofits. Now, the entire report explains every organization that will receive the funds. That's why story number 2 made it. Story number 3, changes to Austintown police levy. Dan Pompley has a report published October 28th. Now, the report informs the reader about how Austintown's police levy is back on the ballot. Now, the goal is to get voters to vote yes to approve a $2.22 million additional levy that would generate $2 million per year to support police operations in the township. Now, the levy would cost homeowners $85 per year and would generate about $600,000 a year, which is much less than last year's proposal. Folks, this story is still developing. That's why story number 3. Story number 4, Girard audit update. Bob Coupland has a report published October 28th updating Girard residents about a recent audit. The entire report is a financial awakening revealing how Girard has been managing their city budget. Now, the report ends on a good note. It basically goes on by stating that Girard's mayor, Zupo, I guess he feels that the city does not have any negative funds balances. He's ensuring residents that all expenses will be covered. Thus getting the story to the top 8. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5, water and sewer race in top headlines. Bob Coupland has a report published October 24th out of McDonald explaining how Village Council made it known that increasing water and sewer rates for customers will become effective December 1st. The rate will increase from 7.50 to 9.75 per 1,000 gallons. Wow. And the sewer rates will increase from 6.90 to 9.32 per 1,000 gallons. Now, the continued hike in utility costs is what has stories like these trending. That's why story number 5 made it. Story number 6, another sad situation at East High School. Ed Ryan has a report published October 30th explaining how 13 months after a student was struck by a car, sadly, according to the headline, another student has been struck again. Now, this story made it in because it echoes a story some years back when a little girl was hit by a car. I believe her name was Faith, and she lost her life in an accident at the school. Now, this story is brutal because the report goes on to say that the driver left the scene. This is repetition because the incident before this one that made it in was similar. The driver left the scene. This is unlike the one where the little girl lost her life, but it's just showing something that keeps happening, folks. This story is still developing. That's why almost made it to the top 2 this week, because safety has stayed in top headlines. Big story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines in developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do not get up this early, you can check out the show. I do upload to the website on Mondays if you want to catch up on your top 8 just to see what's going on. You may just want to see what's happening in the world, or you may need it for a time capsule or historical value. We have plenty of shows that have been taped throughout the years to give you plenty of news to get you an understanding of what has been going on throughout the ages. Story number 7, property tax reform bill taking shape. David Scolding has a report published October 24th informing locals that the Ohio House approved 2 property tax bills that the report says will save homeowners more than $2.4 billion over the next 3 years. Now, each bill, according to the article, has to be approved by the state Senate and signed by Governor Mike DeWine. Now, the article is very informative when it comes to the what, when, why, and who's being affected in the story. Now, the report even mentions how the majority of Ohio schools will be tangled in this tax web. Now, this story is still developing. It's important to note that the average property value in Mahoning County increased by 38% in 2023 and by 35% in Trumbull County. Now, each House bill is vividly explained in the article, thus making it a must read. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. The property tax issue is staying alive. Big. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do want the show to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Stop at the store. It doesn't take much to support this program. Let's get to this top story. Story number 8, Sobe, that's SOBE News, is still in top headlines for a reason. David Scolding has a report published October 29th explaining a complete mess in the Sobe energy story. Now, the report explains how a second attempt to power up an old YSU pipeline to provide backup energy for much of the city's downtown failed, while the current system experienced leaks, according to the main idea of the article. Now, the report goes on to explain how efforts by Youngstown Mayor Jamel Tito Brown and State Rep Lauren McNally to get emergency relief or financial assistance hasn't been successful at all. This is almost word for word in the report. Now, the fact that this story is impacting 28 downtown customers is what got this story in. Now, the report is long and really goes all in to explain what appears to be another big mess unfolding in the downtown Youngstown area and story. Folks, this story is still developing in the midst of another election. That's why story number 8 made it this week. Well, folks, our top 8 local headlines developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brown West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
just got worried that the story got leaked. How did they find out about us selling the dance hall? Listen up, I don't have time for this. I want you to get on this, alright? You know how much sucking up I'm going to have to do to these people now to get reelected? I don't like being exposed, Minnie. Somehow somebody leaked our conversation. Alright, I'll talk to you later. Get on this, Smitty. Please.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines developing news stories that made this week. Folks, this week is election week, and we have to go out to the polls and vote locally and on national issues, and it kind of reminds me of as we're talking about this year, what to look for in a politician. And I'm not gonna lie, and at Method 8, we have a lot of interesting conversations. I meet so many different kinds of people at this business, and everybody's trying to get to greatness and do something great in their life. And the field of politics is one of those fields where people assume that these people have a great, perfect, magnificent life, where sometimes that's not the case. And what you will find in a politician is probably the same thing you will find in the average person that may think that they have it bad, and a politicians may think like they have it going on. They have security, benefits, they get all kinds of amazing, but the life of a politician is probably like, once you step in the public eye, that image that you leave in office is there every day. You could be a pervert, and people will always remember you for being a pervert. You could get 100 things right, but they will always remember a few things that be wrong. And you could be a religious person, go to church every Sunday, and you will be blamed for the killing of Christ. Politicians are different. The life is different. So when we're headed into the election season, I always remember my cousin. I always call her Queen Keela. That's probably not her real name, but I call her Queen Keela. And I remember one night I was over her house. Now, if the political office is considered greatness, the reason why I bring up this story is because women and men, people want to feel great. We want to be great. We want to be leaders. We want to be to the point to where we're unbelievably like Christ. And the reason why I bring this up, my cousin Keela, is because she was always wanting to better herself, and she would hang around me because they felt like I was probably good to feel great and try to be great, because they looked at my life as something similar to a politician. I was always doing something in school, business-wise. So the reason why I'm saying is this, is that none of us are Jesus. But when we're striving to be great, feel great, and make the perception of greatness, if you think of a politician, that's what a lot of people try to look at as somebody, I guess they try to see it as Christ, but that's not the case. So when you go to the polls this week, the reason why I'm saying this is the political job that you're voting for is not to go vote for you to feel great, for you to feel like you want to be great. No, folks, no. You have to vote with the intention of what this person can do for the community, how they approach the job, and if they can get the job done, folks. Whew. When you vote, be informed. Property taxes, things that are happening. Try to vote the right way. And don't go voting on emotions, because like everything, when you look to the left, look to the right, when you look down, when you look into a politician's eyes, a politician is not somebody who is your friend. There's somebody who works for you for the greater of the common good. So To make a long story short, when I would see my cousin Keela and I would be doing something that was not considered Christ-like, Queen Keela would tell you, Brian, get that nonsense out of my house. We want greatness. We want to feel great. And we want a politician who gives us great service and serves us great so we can be like Jesus. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Could Americans get a tariff check? MoneyWise has a headline stating that Trump says tariff checks are probably coming to millions of Americans and soon. Now, the entire report basically talks about a president floating around the idea of a tariff dividend check for Americans. Now, the report says that tariffs on imports from other nations have brought in over $1 trillion this year, with $650 billion from the European Union, $550 billion from Japan, and $350 billion from South Korea. Now, the article even mentions some conflicting talking points out of Fox News, stating that tariffs have only generated over $200 billion. The report then goes on to talk about a dividend stream being talked about in Washington. Folks, this story is still developing. It brings up another story headed into the polls. How do we get to feel great, be great with the leader that is promoting greatness? That's a big question. Story number 1, big. Story number 2, does the world need more kids? NPR has a headline that has been consistent in top headlines, and that is the fact that the world is having fewer kids. Now, the headline goes on to say that this one choice is transforming the world's economy. Now, the report explains how it's triggering a population shift that's sending shockwaves through economies. Now, the abortion debate is what got the story in, thus getting the story to the top 8. That's why story number 2 made it. Story number 3, utility bills and top headlines. USA Today has a headline explaining the state of Americans and their utility bill situation. The headline reads that why Americans are behind on utility bills. That's what the article is kind of odd, but it says why Americans behind on utility bills may freeze if shutdown doesn't end soon. That's what the article says. My interpretations be why are Americans behind on their energy bills in the first place? Now, the article starts by explaining how states are sending out an SOS to keep millions of Americans from freezing soon. That means that we're heading into the winter months. So in some parts of America, we're heading into other seasons, especially hurricane and all this other stuff, winter, blizzards. So they're basically saying that we basically sound an alarm now. Because if people don't be able to pay their bills, it may be good to act early. Now, the entire report shows a country headed into uncharted territory without a government to assist them. That means the government is shut down. Folks, this story is still developing. So story number 3 made it in the story number 4, the largest layoff story in Amazon's history. CNBC has a report published October 28th by Annie Palmer. Now, the report states that Amazon will begin a fresh round of job cuts. The headline grabs the reader's attention because it simply states that this is the largest layoff plan in the company's history. The report cites 30,000 staffers being let go. Now, what got the story in is because Amazon is the nation's second largest private employer with more than 1.54 million staffers globally and has roughly 350,000 corporate employees. Now, the entire report highlights tech layoff numbers over the years that are frightening, thus getting the story to the top 8. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Well, folks, our top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with top 4, so don't you go under the Mediator. Me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made this week. Folks, we're headed into November 4th, another election day, locally and national election for America. Well, I said international, but it kind of lets you know that here's some signs and what to look for when you're headed to the polls. You want to be informed. You want to know what the politicians stand for. And the one thing to be very, very critical of is the word free. And the reason why I say this, especially in capitalism, because when somebody says that something is free, even in business, there's a high opportunity that you're being drawn in and being told that something is free to basically get your vote. That's the scariest part. Now, a seasoned outlooker would tell a politician just get elected. But when you look at reality and you look at the stuff that people have to deal with in any common community, is especially in capitalism, after you grow up, you learn that nothing is free, and you learn that the people who are in your better interests are usually telling you the truth. And I say this because I once was in love, and I really love the people that I love, so I often tell them the truth, so I'm single. And it's usually the ones who are telling the people that they want to be in love with that if it's free love, those are usually the ones that get over. And I'm just being honest. As my cousin Queen Keela would say, Brian, if it's not going to make you great, get it out of your life. Get out of my house. Queen Keela, my cousin, wanted to better herself in her life, which she's probably doing now, and she had a kid she raised to be an adult. So, as a woman would say, if it's not going to be good for you, then it ain't going to be good for me. So let's waste no time, folks. Head into political season, the voting time, and even issues and other things. Be informed. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Is healthcare broken, or are we just overlooking the fine print? We vote. The Hill has a report highlighting the shutdown debate over expiring enhanced Obamacare subsidies that have put Republicans on the defensive over health care. The report begins by stating that the entire situation would reopen open wounds over the 2017 attempt to repeal and replace Obamacare, which many conservatives see as a disaster. Folks, the entire piece's main talking point is about subsidies and how there is no clear plan on how to deal with rising premiums if those subsidies are allowed to expire. So I start number 5. Story number 6. Hunger in top headlines, especially in America. Time has a headline explaining how America's hunger crisis is growing. The report begins with a faded headline stating that the Trump administration canceled the USDA's annual Household Food Security Report and SNAP. Now this is what the report says. It goes on to say, and SNAP benefits are running out. That's what the report says. Now, that is word for word in the headline. Now, the story begins with a testimony of a 79-year-old person giving with how it feels now to be without any assistance. And what got this story in is because the report states that for the first time in 30 years, America will no longer track hunger nationwide. Folks, the report says that in New York alone, grocery prices have risen more than 50% over the past decade. The number sits at nearly 13 million older Americans facing food insecurity. Folks, this story is still developing. So story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you don't get up this early and you do want to check out the top 8 stories on Monday, I do upload the show to our website on Monday, so you catch up with your news. Story number 7, the shutdown blues. Time has a report explaining how the government shutdown has put millions at risk of not being able to heat their homes. The story echoes a number of stories laying out how basic government programs could bring everyone to their knees who don't have them. The story explains how millions of people could be in harm's way headed into the winter, especially low-income people. The report was published October 28th, and it really puts the reader into the reality of what will happen to low-income households, folks. This story is still developing. So story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big B happy. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made this week. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or you can stop by the store at 5640 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio, see my smiling face. Story number 8, for the second week in a row, SNAP benefits is still in top headlines before the airing of the show. Folks, The Hill has a headline published October 26 by Mike Lillis explaining how SNAP funding expiration is set to hit 40 million people. Now, the report is eye-opening when revealing how many people are actually receiving SNAP government benefits. Now, the report explains how there are between 5 billion and 6 billion currently in the fund, but experts say that it's not enough to cover an estimated $8 billion in SNAP benefits due out next month. Now, as of the recording of this show, the government was still shut down. That's before when I was recording the show, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number 8 made it to the top this week. Well, folks, there are top 8 local and international headlines developing news stories that I made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. Always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your news stories to keep people informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. It does visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or you stop at the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Folks, my heart goes out to those who have been affected by the hurricane, and welcome to November. I hope you have a good week. I'll be back next week looking at over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the media this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.